Hi there, Dad Hargrave from Marketing for Hippies, and I got an email from somebody a few months ago, and I've been meaning to make a video about it ever since. And she said, "What do you call yourself? Does it matter? Do you just do your thing and see what happens?" Lately, I've been referring to myself as a stress coach or a stress and anxiety coach, but I'm finding myself irritated by the negative angle of that. Would it be better to call myself a grounding coach, but no one gets what the hell that is? Or a calm coach? Ha, nope, no one would understand it. I used to call myself a sacred intimacy coach because what I do is to work with people to help them slow down, find ground, pay devotional attention to details in their lives and their relationships. But intimacy equals sex, and I got a whole lot of counseling sessions that I had no interest in doing. So curious, what's your title? Do you bother? Yeah, so maybe you can relate to this. Yeah, what the hell do you call yourself? It's tricky. First of all, I just say it doesn't matter that much. Honestly, it's not that big a deal. There are a number of things that matter more. So first of all, I would say this also, this whole not wanting to go on negative angle on it. I'll put a video below about this whole not wanting to be negative, because there's a lot to say there. It's not such a simple thing as, negative marketing about the problem is bad and talking about the solution is good, because you can be just as manipulative with solutions. So I'll put a link to that. Second, I'll put a link to an ebook I've got called Crystal Clear, which is about 5 steps on how do you articulate what you do, and that's much more important. Because the fundamental, we got to contextualize this. Sometimes these things get so abstract and we just imagine that we need a title. You don't. You really don't need a way to say what you do. For years, when people would ask me, say, "What do you do?" So I do marketing for hippies, but way before my name was Marketing for Hippies. So every once in a while, you come up with something that people laugh. They say, "Oh, that's funny," or "Tell me more," or gets their interest. So sure, have that if you find one. But contextually, what's happening is the only reason you'd want to say something like this to give a title is because somebody says, "What do you do?" and you want to have an answer for that. Yeah, you don't just, want to walk around with this emblazoned on your back of your jacket or you're tattooed on your arm. There's a specific place and time where you would say these things. Do you need to put it on your website? No, I don't think so. Because there's so many threads. I'll see if I can tie them together. First of all, the homepage of your website shouldn't be about you. It should be about them. Yeah. So this is the major orientational shift. So much of what we focus on in our marketing is about me. How do I talk more about me? Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about you. What do you think about me? It's that whole racket. So in the Crystal Clear book, I go over these 5 steps. And I'll just outline them briefly. But there's that, and there's some more in that ebook as well. And there's another video about how to articulate what you do. But basically, the 5 steps are the 5 things you need to articulate, and in this order. The first thing to articulate is, hold on a sec, my battery. First thing to articulate is who's this for. Second thing to articulate is what's the problem they're struggling with. Third thing is what's the result that you're offering. Fourth thing is what's a story. Fifth thing would be how do you do it. So, for example, you know how a lot of holistic practitioners and life coaches really struggle with how to figure out a name for what they do? Well, what I do is help them figure out how to talk about what they do in such a way that it's really clear for other people, even if they never have a title at all. So, for example, this woman sent me an email, and I'm recording that video right now, answering that question. How do I do it? Sometimes answering people in videos. That's a short example. But the title doesn't matter. Business cards don't matter. Taglines don't matter. Unless you find something good, then it's great. If you find a good title, run with it, work with it. But much more important than you on your website or in an introduction, somebody says, "What do you do?" You finding a way to talk about yourself. It's much more powerful to find a way to talk about them, to talk about the other person, to talk about your ideal client, to share, I help these kind of people, and to do it in such a way that your ideal client would see themselves in it. They'd say, "Oh my God, that's me. I struggle with that. Holy crow." When they come to your website, if all you do is talk about yourself, you lose them utterly. Boy, and if I remember, I'll put a link to a case study I did with a local farming initiative in Guelph that had this issue. If all you do is talk about yourself, they don't care. they're there on your website because of their issues and their problems. That's what they want to hear about. So if they go and they see this title that's very clever, you put a lot of thought into, you finally say, I'm going to call myself a grounding coach, but it's not relevant to them. Yeah, remember, it's your ideal client is on Island A, where they have some problems, some struggles, some symptoms they don't like. They want to be on Island B, where there's some result that they're craving. And your business is like a boat that can take them from one island to the other. So what do people want to hear about? Well, first of all, if they are looking for a particular kind of boat, they're looking for a nonviolent communication coach, somebody who does the work of Byron Katie, somatic experiencing, etc., etc. If they're looking for a particular boat, massage, yoga, great, then you can talk about it. But often, they don't care about the boat. What they care about is the journey. So that's the thing to speak to. And often when people are trying to come up with these terms, stress coach, what they're talking about is the boat. Well, I'm a coach. Now, they're kind of talking generically about the journey, but it's so generic. I work with people who are stressed. I help people get grounding. I help people feel calm. It's just too broad and vague to really grab people. I mean, does everyone want to feel grounded? Sure. People want to feel calm? I guess so. Some of the time, There's nothing about it that just grabs people. What grabs people is the very specific journey, that they're on. Or the very particular type of boat that they're looking for, if they're looking for that particular boat. So this really comes down to, who am I trying to reach? Who's this person on Island A? What are they struggling with? And or if I'm offering a modality that nobody else offers, that I know there's also going to be some demand for, then somebody says, what do you do? And you say, I do this modality. And they say, oh my God, I've been looking for somebody who does exactly that. If that works, roll with that. But this really gets to this question of niching. I've got a whole home study course on this, ebook on this, so there's a lot to say. And there's lots of videos here, on my YouTube and Facebook around niching that you can check out for just free stuff, and tons of free resources at my website, nichingspiral.com. But to tie all this together, it doesn't matter what you call yourself. It much more matters what you call the people you work with, how you name them so they can see themselves or not. It much more matters what's the name of these people on Island A. What's their name? Speaking to that, because if somebody says, what do you do? What they really want to know is, at some level, or one of the very first filters for them is relevance, is, could this help me or somebody I know? Is there an actual fit here? Or am I just listening with polite interest? There's nothing wrong with polite interest. You meet somebody, what do you do? They say something that has no relevance to you in your life. You say, wow, when did you get into that? But that's going to be the first filter. So if you talk about what you do in a way that doesn't inspire the relevance, even when it's there, this is, of course, a marketing disaster. Let's say somebody has back pain, and you really specialize in that. You're really good at it, and that's actually mostly who you work with. And somebody says, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a massage therapist. And you never mention the back pain. They may never consider that massage could help them with back pain. Or you're an osteopath, and back pain is one of the top issues that you help people with. Or you're a yoga therapist, and back pain is one of the big things you help people, but you never mention it. You understand it's, the relevance won't be established. So this is what can happen when people get obsessed with having a title, because they often pick something that doesn't mean anything. It's not relevant to anyone. Nobody understands what the hell they're talking about. I meet people all the time say, well, I'm a stress coach. I was, great. But it's so broad. So, if you find something that works, but here's another way to come at it. The only reason to have one of these titles is because it sparks interest. So that is the function it can play. Somebody says, what do you do? And I would say, I do marketing for hippies. And people would look at me like, marketing and hippies together? What? That's funny. What is this? And they would actually ask me more questions. They'd want me to clarify what the hell I was talking about, because it made no sense to them. I mean, it made some sense, but they were curious. So if you can find a title that will spark curiosity in people, that they say, oh man, tell me more about that, that's a winner, And then you could move to these next steps of, I help these kind of people with this kind of problem get this kind of result. Here's a story. Here's how I do it. And of course, there's other ways to talk about what we do, talking about the bigger why. You could even start with talking about your point of view. There's lots of ways to do it. But you don't need to worry about obsessing about figuring out that right title to put on your business card. You could have no title on your business card. You could never have a title and still have tons of clients. And isn't this really the issue? Is how do you actually get clients? So, yeah, I think I've said everything there's to say about this. I hope that's helpful. If you do ever have any questions, you can feel free to send me a message via email, tad@marketingforhippies.com. I don't reply to all of them, but it's good fodder for these videos, and I'm happy to make them. So I hope that's useful. And thank you so much for spending time with me. I'm so happy to get to have this time with you and get to share all of, what I learned from other people along the way. And I know you're busy. I'm sure you are. I'm sure you're very busy. You've got a lot going on in your life, and that you would stop by here from time to time to hear some of what I have to say and imagine that might have some value for you. I'm very happy about it, and I hope this was useful for you. If you have any questions or comments, you can put them below, and I'll tend to them if I'm able. Yeah. Take care, everyone.